Thank you so much, Jim. What a way to start the day, folks. Okay. Next, we have a member of our project team who you've already been introduced to. Dr. Tamara Krawchenko is an internationally recognized policy scholar and expert in regional development, public policy, and sustainability transitions. She's also a strategic research area lead with ACET, and her place-based research focuses on how governance and institutions can support community and regional transformations. And so we've invited her to speak a little bit about recent ACET initiatives, the Regional Energy Dialogue. So welcome, Tamara. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Okay, great. Those were great presentations, and I rely on your research a lot, and it is optimistic, really. So in my work, I study different types of transitions that have happened in different places, and a lot of what I'm paying attention to are sub-regional or regional dynamics. And because we don't have a singular economy, we have different types of economies in different places, and people relate to those economies where they live. And so for me, the political challenge of telling about a future economy is in large measure meeting people where they're at, in the communities where they're at. So we do have a lot of labor market churn, but we don't have that many people actually moving necessarily from one region. I mean, we're tied to our families, our communities. So I'd like us to think about place a little bit within this, transition. And particularly for me, I see a political challenge of rural and remote places because of various precarities and the threat of a geography of discontent if there is not a really, really strong well-being and outcome for people in rural and remote places. And I wonder, among all the people in the room here, who here is from a rural or remote community? Okay, so we have some representation. That's great. I am an urbanite. I totally am, and I study rural places. And so I'm trying to bring that framing in, but I'm recognizing that I never lived in a rural place in my life. As part of ACET, you can see there's community framing built into the ACET initiative, accelerating community energy transformation. And as part of that, what we're really thinking in that research is community benefit. How do communities actually benefit from energy transformation? Asking this question, when we got this wonderful opportunity as researchers, my initial thinking was, I'm in Victoria, I need to understand what's happening in other parts of the province. And if we're going to do this well, we have to speak to people in northern BC, and I don't have connections there. So with my collaborator, Sinead Earley at the University of Northern British Columbia, and Kara Shaw, my co-lead at UVic, and we have a fantastic community coordinator, Aaliyah Jordan, we went across the province in the last year and have been talking to people in their communities about energy transformation, the opportunities they see, what their interests are, what their risks are, and to just gather a lot of data. And labor was part of all of that. Here are some of the places to give you a sense of who we talk to and where, and they're really different. Places like Atlin that are so isolated, spent time in like Kitimat and Terrace. I'm going to be going to Prince Rupert at the end of the month, Prince George, and so on. And everywhere we heard about labor and skills dynamics and how there is just not enough training. And so I wanted to just share some of the notes for people, bringing their voice into this room. So we know that rural and remote economies have thinner labor markets and fewer institutions, and this just brings particular challenges. We also see a lot in the north, these dynamics of community renewables and how they can potentially, bring a lot of benefit to community, and then the dichotomy of that and big industry, because big industry is there, and energy for industry versus energy for community is really different. And they compete for labor, and industry pays more. So there's some tough dynamics that communities in the north face. Everywhere we went, we heard about the barrier of not enough skilled people. So here's someone from Atlin saying if you want anything installed, they have to come from Smithers or someplace. A lot of people won't even come because they have enough business in Smithers. They're so busy. You can't even get people to come. There's a lot of issues in capacity with municipalities too. So from Mackenzie, we heard, staff have to choose the biggest fire and put their attention there. We're limping along in the way that energy is. So there's all of this potential for, community energy investment, and they just can't even get that file off their desk sometimes because the municipality is just so busy with what they're doing. There's a lot of sometimes literal fires that need to be put out. From Williams Lake, the absence of a centralized leadership body or dedicated knowledge hub makes it so hard for individuals to access support, guidance, or resources. We heard this again and again, that they really want better expertise. They want that expertise to be homegrown. They want solutions from Northerners for the North, and they don't necessarily trust outside experts, including people like me who are university researchers. And then here's a long one from Williams Lake, but I think this is interesting because the person's saying, I don't necessarily look for people who have the certifications because I'm not going to find them. I'm looking for competencies. So even if you can find the right candidate from somewhere and convince them to move here, it turns into a different conversation. And so we have this do it yourself culture in a major way. In some ways, maybe we're building our own basic skills again. These lead me to questions for us to consider today in this conversation. So what kinds of skills and training solutions might work for the North? Are there out-of-the-box solutions? I just did a project with the OECD in Northern Ontario on mining, and there were a lot of out-of-the-box solutions where there was rapid certification and cohort training models, including culturally relevant ones, like bringing women from First Nations in remote territories as a learning cohort for an accelerated welding program. Things like that, where all of the curriculum was donated, and that's just a uniquely tailored kind of training solution. And a final question, how do you scale initiatives and combine resources in places that are smaller, that don't have the types of institutions you have, say, in Vancouver or here in Victoria? And this is something particularly that we want to tackle with our research. Catherine Pierce is here from the Community Energy Association, and we are going to be working on labor and skills in the next phase of our project, where we are going to be conducting a territorial analysis of energy economies across the North, including labor market economies. Again, I always put that plural because they look different in different places. And we're also going to be mapping out the labor and skills training environment and speaking to people across the North to try and think of how we can build scale and acceleration in lower density places. So I'll leave it at that. I'm sure you have a ton of expertise to share with us on that. And over to you, Megan.
All right, folks, fantastic presentations. Thank you again to our speakers. We're running a little over time, so I'll just ask.